For Mother's Day 2021, I convinced my parents and my cousins to join me at Henricus Historical Park in Chesterfield, Virginia. This out-of-the-way living history museum immerses you in the story of the colony of Virginia from 1611 to 1620. We first encountered Terry at the main entrance, and then Randall just a bit farther, who was working on some sort of frame for a gate.
And that's what this will be. I mean, this and the one you see in the middle over there, that went up today, this will go up today. And obviously it's not going to keep anything out. So you wattle it, you weave the saplings and bits of branches through it, and that does a good job keeping the pigs and things like that out. Now, 400 years ago you had 300 soldiers living here. Because I know deer and raccoon and whatever get right past that fence, not an issue, but with 300 soldiers here on 24/7 rotation, those animals aren't coming anywhere near, or they'll be on the dinner plate. So this would keep out, again, if you have the free-roaming pigs, you will have sometimes, although that wasn't a thing here so much, but if you have dogs later, they're building for what they're used to back in England. So, like I say, pigs and dogs, you probably didn't have those wandering around Henricus Fort. I'm sure you didn't, actually.
Definitely chickens, though, I imagine.
Chickens, yeah. Definitely. But they're building what they know. So they're not going to specialize. They're not going to change everything and create a new architectural form for Virginia. Anything and everything you see out here, you would find back in England, almost identical. The buildings behind you over there, although this is a mess right now, we're dealing with it. This is actually one of the few buildings on site that's not wattle and daub and thatched.
All that woven branches, they would have been branches at that point, not flat. But that provides stability for the clay daub that's put on it. And your daub is made of clay, straw, sand, and manure.
Ooh, lovely.
Yeah, well, that's why you always use herbivore manure. And never use pig manure.
Right.
That's the gift that keeps on giving.
Right.
But the manure provides a chemical reaction that hardens it up. And it's good for about 18 years or so if it's protected from the elements, like our walls. That's been out in the rain since we built this place. So.
This is the carpenter shop. And I was not here when they built it a little over 10 years ago. It was new when I started working here. And you can see what's already happened. Wood rots. Guess what, right? That roof over there lasted 35 plus years. This one didn't last 10. But the thing is, this is a lot more expensive 400 years ago because England is short on straight grain hardwoods. They arrive here in Virginia, they're everywhere. So an apprentice carpenter can knock 1,000 of these out a day with a fro on straight grain, knock it out, knock it out, knock it out, stop for lunch, come back and do 998 more. And they're going to ship some of these back to England for profit. However, lumber never becomes, at least not in the early days, a big export. It needs infrastructure. It needs sawmills. I mean, going from tree to post takes about 18 hours of labor for a single, couple of posts. And that's just not doable with our small footprint over here. Later on, I think the 1640s, if I'm not mistaken, Chesterfield, which doesn't exist yet, but this area we'll see the first sawmill around here, and that'll be more useful. But right now it's just 300 guys here and a little over 100 down at Jamestown, and there's not enough labor to make lumber a big deal. So what we're doing with this, since the roof actually was beginning to rot, we asked the county to come in, since we are technically a county facility, and take it off, and we're going to have it replaced, and eventually, crossing fingers, knocking wood and everything else, the whole building will be replaced in a couple of years.
Towards the end of our visit, we were able to visit the partial reconstruction of the Powhatan town of Arohatech. Unfortunately, there were no staff members on site when we visited, but we were still able to see some of the dwellings, or Yahikans, as well as the dancing circle. In addition to the colonial history of the site, there were other historical markers telling the story of the Civil War and the battle that was fought on that very land. But let's check back in with Randall as he finishes this gate.
Take a little bit of this off to make the notch a bit larger. And it's such a small piece, it's not going to come easy. The saw is going to want to keep skipping. But after I've gotten a few runs, there we go. I don't want to go too far because I'm making a lap here. And this is a soft wood. It's pine. It's just going to be to support the wattling on the fence, so it doesn't have to be the heavy oak we're used to using out here. It smooths out really easily. All right, so now that should fit just like that, instead of being tight. So what I'll do in a few minutes, I'm going to do this one too. The thing about this is everything, there's no true right angle. Everything's everything's a hair off, but that's fine because it would have been 400 years ago too. And at the end of the day, it's a garden gate. I don't think they had a master carpenter over here making that. So what's going to happen is I've got an older one from an old gate I had to show you. See the holes? And what this would do is fits up and it'll be pegged. So each of these will have a hole drilled through it with an auger, called a small one called a gillet, and hand auger, of course. And then hardwood dowel. You tap that through. And surprisingly enough, they did use a lot of glue in those days, hide glue and other types of glue derived from hooves and things like that. And I might actually glue this and then peg it, make it last a little bit longer. I don't like using glue. I feel like it's cheating, even though I know they did it. I feel like I can do it with just the peg. But if it makes it last longer, that's what I'll probably do.